Hey everybody, just thought I would get on and encourage you, as encouragement's a good thing, especially these days when so much is up in the air and a lot of people are wondering what the heck's going on with our world right now and the economy and everything. So um, I get intel about this through email and YouTubes, and I'm one of those ones that's on YouTube quite a bit where I'm kind of gathering a lot of spiritual information so that I can kind of streamline it to you quick and fast as far as the energies that are happening. And some of the newest information is that we are in 5D as far as the grid on the planet. So we're going to be moving more and more into 5D reality versus 3D, which is kind of like the old paradigm and kind of what we're leaving behind. There's still 3D stuff going on, but it's, don't have to give it energy, give energy to the 5D, heaven on earth version of things. And I got an email that I was really kind of waiting for because it gives more of a timeline. And of course, timelines are changeable, and they have changed so many times just because, so much happens every day that decisions are made, and it just sort of changes the trajectory of things. But my sense is this is going to be an amazing summer and an amazing year, 2020. In general, I think there's going to be a lot of these things in effect by the end of the year, and especially by the time the elections go into play, because I think Trump's going to want to have all this good stuff under his belt for the next election. So what are those things? So one of the things that did happen on May 1st is that we went officially to constitutional law as compared to maritime law, which we've been using, which is rather corrupt and kind of like a game that there's all kinds of loopholes and technicalities that you start to wonder, like, you know what, if we just look at this logically from the point of view of integrity, this is how it should go. But, all these stupid loopholes and technicalities make it okay for, police to tell us that we can't sit on the beach or that we have to wear a mask, just kind of violating our basic rights to choose that for ourselves. And we have a right to go out and get fresh air and sunshine, and we don't need some patriarchal parent telling us how to live our lives. But at any rate, anyway, that's something that is effective officially, and whether they've already trained the judges and lawyers and whatnot already, or that's going to be happening or is in process, that is part of it, because it is a new way of doing law that's much more in integrity, much more in alignment with the divine law, instead of just these kind of fundamentalist technicality kind of stupid games that end up getting played where, we're not really protecting properly and whatnot. GESERA is something, it's an acronym that's like Global Economic Reset, whatever. And it's something that we're doing as a globe. So it's kind of like leave no country behind. And so that's what slows us down, I guess, maybe from getting there sooner, is that we literally have we can't just move ahead when we're ready to, even though America might be ready to go. We have to help people like Iraq and, get back on their feet. And there's countries that are still eradicating kind of the remnants of the old regime and getting their economies and their monies kind of stabilized and whatnot. So there's a couple things, there's a lot of really good stuff through this GESERA. So one of them is that they want to get rid of just all these taxes, because, the old regime taxed us to death, and it's kind of like more of a slave economy that they were running, even though they kind of made you feel like it wasn't, and you can still accomplish the American dream, and yet it's kind of more of a slave debt economy was what we were living in. So it's going to become much better than that. And what that means is, stop stop property taxes on property we already own. We shouldn't have to pay taxes on something we own outright, and no more income tax. And they're trying to just go to a straight, simple sales tax on new items that, yes, will be higher than what we're used to, but it kind of gets rid of all the other forms of tax so that it's just simplified. So they talked about like a 17% tax on new items. It's not used items or used cars or used homes, just new stuff. And then it eliminates property tax and income tax. How long that'll take, I don't know, but it is part of the program that's going to be rolled out, you know, hopefully by the end of the year, but we'll see how that goes. And then then there's debt forgiveness, which this one's a little bit hard to believe, but it's awesome, which is, you know, mortgage forgiveness, credit card debt forgiveness. They call it the Jubilee because there was a principle in the Bible where like every 7 years or something, they would just forgive all debt if it hadn't been paid by then. So we had such a debt economy, which was really actually against the law to put us in that position. We've been kind of robbed from for long enough, and the way that they compounded interest was actually out of integrity, and a lot of people didn't know this. It was kind of under the radar, and people would be figuring it out here and there, and you know, and then it's hard to go up against big corporations and mortgage people because, you know, they were kind of running the show at the time, but they're dying now. So anyway, debt forgiveness is huge. It kind of gets rid of that whole debt mentality. Mortgage forgiveness is pretty extreme and beautiful. So anyway, that's part of the plan. There's also more incentive checks coming, or stimulus checks coming, you know, as far as like on a monthly basis, just giving the money back to the people, power to the people, all that money that was stolen through taxes and debt and whatnot from the old regime. They were just hoarding all our money basically, and like the 1% at the top had all the money. And so anyway, they're going to redistribute that and put it out through stimulus checks and, you know, giving more to Social Security people and whatnot. So all these things are coming down the chute, and you know, they somewhat get modified along the way. Yeah, so like this is what it says about, it says cancels all credit card, mortgage, and other bank debt due to illegal banking and government activities. Many refer to this as the Jubilee, or complete forgiveness of debt. Number 2 was abolishes income tax. 3, abolishes the IRS, which that's already happened actually. They're not doing the same stuff that they used to do before because that's all coming to an end. The employees get switched over to the U.S. Treasury Department. Increasing benefits to senior citizens. We're eliminating the Federal Reserve System. During the transition period, the Federal Reserve will be allowed to operate with the U.S. Treasury for 1 year in order to remove all Federal Reserve notes from the money supply, because we're getting new money that's coming in that actually looks completely different. It doesn't have all the Illuminati symbols on it, but it has like women figures in there for a change, like Pocahontas and famous women, you know, instead of just all famous men. And then it says there's a release of unprecedented prosperity with enormous sums of money for humanitarian purposes. There's a bunch of, I know, like patents that are going to be released that the old regime kept from being released to help us, like, you know, like around healing and just having more advanced technology, because they had monopolies on certain industries and they didn't want to interfere with their money stream. But there's there's a lot of like really healing, amazing things that are coming out, that all that's going to be able to finally reach us and benefit us as a whole. Okay, then we've got then there's one that says reinstates the original title of nobility amendment, which I don't really know what that means. Um, and some of this other stuff is kind of a little bit more legalese. And I think that's the main thing I wanted to share with you. Yeah. Is that we just have a lot of good funds coming our way. You know, with the tax changes and debt changes and more stimulus checks. And then there's also going to be like this whole financial reset that happens where that new money, as far as the US and United States note, the new note coming out. And that's going to reset so that we, instead of fiat money, which is what they called it before, it's kind of an illusion where they can just print money and it's sort of just a fake, right? Fake news, fake money. They have a resource-backed system that's like gold-backed and other resources. And yes, we do have enough resources to have abundance to back all that money too, so that it's real. And also too, you know, I notice on the kind of newsy type stuff, they're talking about how, oh, we're headed for major depression and, you know, we're in so much debt and all this. All that's going to be forgiven. There's already been countries that have been completely forgiven their debts. And we do have plenty of resources in Africa and all over the world, whether it's through mining and precious minerals and gold and whatnot. We do have plenty, and there is a ton of money. We're not lacking in money. There's plenty to go around, actually, to make everyone quite nicely well off. So I just want to burst that bubble in case you think that there's not enough to go around, because that's the old paradigm. There's plenty for everyone, and we're gonna be going into an abundance mentality, 5D, heaven on earth, where, you know, basic needs are met, like healthcare and education, and you know, it's just going to be a very different world. And it seems a little too good to be true, and some of you are going to be like, oh, where's she getting this information? But you just watch this summer, and by the end of the year, a lot of this will have been accomplished, and it's just going to keep getting better and better. Because what happens too is when they reset all the currencies globally, because it's a global deal, then there's a lot of funds through the Saint Germain Trust and, you know, all these other things that, like the Royalty Trust and whatnot, where a lot of people invested in these currencies like dinar and zim and the other ones, where that they're going to make a lot of funds that have been specifically designated for humanitarian purposes to bring about just stronger infrastructure in our countries, more jobs, humanitarian projects, so that people's needs are just met better. So we have a lot of really good things coming our way. So when this quarantine happened and started, I got really excited, because I'm like, oh my God, it's finally here. This is finally happening. They have a reason to put all these things into place now, because it totally makes sense. And they're just basically draining the swamp, getting rid of the remnants of the old regime so that they can implement all this good stuff. And so be ye encouraged.